Good evening. Welcome back to a new episode of Around the Pit. I'm your host, Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV if you're so inclined, or not. You can go anyway. It doesn't really bother me if you don't. That was a weird tangent. Let's just get back to the start of this thing. We got a good show for you tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got some great guests. Before I introduce them, I do want to do my due diligence to give a shout out to our sponsors, brought to you tonight by ProBuilt Systems, who built the computer that we're broadcasting from, Asus Republica Gamers, that gave us the mobile PC used to make shows on the road, and of course, GameLeap.com, the only sponsor ever to actually give us cash to talk about their stuff. And I'll tell you what, I tested it before I took it, and I'm going to TI with some of that money. But here's the best part. It's a tutorial service that actually has made me better, and I'm not going to lie. Grant will probably make fun of me for this, but I suck at Dota, so everything helps. And it's literally, they hire 6.5K players and higher to write tutorials and video guides about their best heroes. Builds, laning, farming, kind of all of those point case stuff. It's really, really helpful, has helped my MMR, and if you don't like it, they'll give you your money back if you just tell them that you haven't had an MMR game. So, worth a shot. I enjoyed it. I hope you do too. Let's get into talking about what's going on with our guest today. Number one, on the left side, the man, the myth, the legend, the controversy, in a lot of ways, is none other than GranDGranT, the master of Dr. Pepper. How are you doing here tonight?
Good, great. Just living life, being myself, and wishing upon a star.
Wishing upon a star. I think I hope that you keep your wishes, because you've got two people looking to take you down this evening. Number one, right in the middle, is a woman famous for her longevity of casts and her uncanny ability to talk about people pulling things out of refrigerators. Annie, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. Very excited to be here, fresh off the back of the TI Hub. It's nice to be home, just getting over the jet lag, but switching back to China time tomorrow night. So, a lot of fun.
You. So you get to cover the series that nobody will watch, but it should be an awful lot of fun. So are you doing NaN Yang? Is that what you're covering tomorrow?
No, I'm doing DPL.
DPL. So the thing that nobody will watch. Moving over to Motpax. Moving over to Motpax, an analyst, a statistician, and somewhat of a genius when it comes to talking about Dota statistics. We brought him in because Grant hates analysts who run on stats, and I want to hear a little bit of a back and forth between the two of you. Motpax, how you doing tonight?
Oh, no. Oh, well, I'm doing great. I mean, that Dota's dead, guys. Stats are dead. It's fine. Don't worry. Grant and I, we're homies. We're tight.
It's good. Stats were never alive, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, very well. All right, guys. Well, this is Around the Pit. Most of you have probably seen it, and if you haven't, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. It's pretty simple. Long story short, there are no real rules other than the buzzer. If you hear this sound, it means we're done talking about a topic. We're done talking about a topic, and we're moving on to the next one. So just let it go. In the top left corner of each of the people you're looking at, there is a score counter. If you make a good point, if you're willing to state something with strong resolve, or just say something relatively interesting, you get points. Whoever has the most points at the end wins the Aegis. The cool thing about the Aegis is you can cash it in anytime to come back on the show. So if you see a guest you really want to go toe-to-toe with, the Aegis is your only way back at the spur of a moment. That's pretty much it. Every topic is 8 to 11 minutes, and all of you, and don't forget to use this, guys, have a 1-minute soapbox. You can use it anytime during the show to get your point across if I cut you off or if I say a topic is over. It also is worth points, so feel free to use that to score a little bit of extra crowd-pleasing points to take that Aegis home. That said, let's get this show on the road. The first topic up, as voted by the viewers, is NaN Yang what the fuck. What that really comes down to is NaN Yang did a bunch of invitationals, a bunch of qualifiers, all that other crap, and they invited 4 teams specifically to attend. 3 of those 4 teams have dropped out of NaN Yang. EG and Fnatic said it was visa issues. Secret very specifically posted and said, due to some ongoing issues with the event, our team will unfortunately has to withdraw. What do you guys think about this? What does this do to the tournament? And do you think Fnatic and EG had visa issues, or could they have cleared them up and just sort of felt the same way that Secret did?
I think the first thing you need to look at, and the only thing you really need to see, is that I still haven't seen an official statement from NaN Yang. I don't know if anyone else has. I've looked for one. Because how can someone get away with putting due to ongoing issues, and then there's no follow-up? Who's the hard hitters, man? Someone chase after this. What's going on?
I mean, it's pretty obvious what's happening. NaN Yang's being run by the same people who ran the Shanghai Major. I think once teams found that out, why the hell would you want to go to the event? We know Eternal Envy hates China. It's pretty obvious TBD has. I know Sumail actually does have a visa issue, so that wasn't a lie by them. I'm not sure about the other team, but who would want to go to an event run by the same people who did the Shanghai Major? When they were invited, they still thought this was an SEA like tournament where NaN Yang was last year, so
absolutely
pretty obvious to me.
And it is worth noting that I think if my timelines are correct, and this is Toffee's brain, the Key TV announcement, like people found out that Key TV was taking the NaN Yang tournament for production, and then we saw a lot of these teams start to announce they're backing off. So there is some potential to that for those of you who are sort of viewing or listening on the podcast. Annie, do you have any thoughts about NaN Yang and what this does to it?
I think it just kind of makes it a little bit of a joke of a tournament. These are teams that you invited to be there. These are the big name teams. These are the ones that are going to bring in the viewers. And now that they're not there, it's just kind of a flimsy rest of the tournament. It's going to kind of crumble. And I think going from there, it's looking pretty grim if this is going to have another season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I mean, that's literally why a lot of teams aren't going. Is because who's running it and because where it's being run at. So
and the time it's being run at too. It's just that final factor that just pushed it over to like, all right, we're done. This is not worth it.
Isn't it? It's NaN Yang, Summit, and then Star Ladder. Or three, like right
and
before
then
this
TI.
major.
You know, this other tournament. I don't know if anyone's heard of that one. It's Darkness.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the travel possibly comes into it. The idea that I think a lot of teams come back from China sick after these things, so it could be another factor in it all. The question is, we've seen this seems to continuously happen before large tournaments like majors as well, where big teams start to drop out of these smaller tournaments. Is this a symptom of a problem in the system, or is this strictly because it's not going to be a good tournament, or these teams just don't think it's worth the time and effort to fix the visa issues and things like that?
I think it's more of that one. Like even if say the Summit or like Star Ladder is going to be bad, at least they're both in California. Like who gives a crap? You're just flying out there, and we're still in here. You're committing so much time flying to China, possible jet lag for TI, all that. Like we've seen what they've done. It sucks. We don't want to fly all the way over there for that. That's it, I think, for me.
Yeah. I think these big teams can also be the voices of the smaller teams that if they think a tournament's unfair or poorly run, they have a big enough pull to be able to say, you know what, screw it, we're not going. And that gets enough attention. It doesn't have to be every single team pulling out. It can just be the big names to kind of make the waves for the rest of the teams.
Makes sense. All right, guys, do you have any other thoughts on this before we move on to the rest of the topics?
I still think Digital Chaos is going, and that's literally, I think, them and Empire are the only Western teams now?
So far, yes.
I don't think they're going to get another Western team to replace people. They're going to get some. So it's going to be DC and Empire.
We'll get some other Chinese because they're playing a second qualifier in China, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to provide one of the teams. And then I'm sure they'll just grab some other Southeast Asian. I wonder if Execration would go. I think that would be kind of cool. Like after winning that wild card, that would be like the perfect tournament for them because they have like no results anywhere. I mean, that's a whole other thing. We'll get into later.
It would be fun to see them get destroyed. Them and I think Warriors Gaming's going, and I don't know. It's going to be a fun Chinese land mixed with Digital Chaos. I literally think it's like China Digital Chaos because Empire's garbage. So I think it'll be fun though.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting, I think, if they did invite Execration to see if they could get their visas for this tournament. And I think it'd be very telling if they were able to say process it fast enough and the other teams couldn't as to why people aren't going out there. But that's NaN Yang. For those of you who have not been following it, and honestly, if you're a normal human being without the intense Dota addiction that we suffer from, you probably had no idea this was going on because NaN Yang sort of feels like a non-factor. I mean, at the end of the day, TI invites are done, and this will sort of piggyback this into qualifiers a little bit. Do these tournaments really matter in the grand scheme of things? I mean, are teams going to bring their best game to the Summit, to Star Ladder, and to NaN Yang, or are they all focused on the big show?
I want to do a Motpax here. I want to give you a stat. Did you know the only LAN tournament the old DC with Yamar made was NaN Yang Season 1? Yeah, just so you know. Because that team was, I don't know what the hell was going on with that team.
That team had some issues, I think.
Yeah. No, but
they didn't have sun spanning done.
Yeah, I think it just it could make, I don't know. There's no invites for TI6 anymore. So these tournaments, I think they're still going to use it for big practice. Like DC versus LGD and Newbie, that's still big games for them. They want to, because I think DC they have high hopes for TI6. So I think it's good practice for them. But the teams who aren't in TI6, Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to scrim online to LGD or something, so this is still a really big opportunity to go into those kind of things. But at the same time, everyone who's saying things like, I can't believe EG aren't going, they need more time with their new roster, they're so dumb. Like, that does not outweigh this whole time thing about decompressing, coming back from China, getting ready for all these other tournaments. There is some sort of a split there, and I can see why DC are willing to do this kind of a thing, because they are just more of a solidified roster that they want to go, man. They want to fly.
Yeah. Well, and I think Moo tweeted out and said that this is good practice, or they're good preparation for TI or something along those lines. So it definitely shows a difference. Now, let me ask you this. You guys get a chance to interact with the players a lot. You brought up scrimming, for instance, and I think, is there a differential in the kind of scrims that a team like DC can secure versus a team like EG? Like, if EG sends a message to most teams, do they say, sure, we'll scrim you, whereas DC maybe has to fight for some scrims?
I'm pretty sure DC, Cole, and EG can pretty much. I think they're all the same level in that regard. I'm pretty sure. Maybe Motpax knows more.
No, I would totally agree. I mean, they're all. I don't think there's really at the top echelon. I don't think there's a big debate there, right? It's more so those kind of like second tier teams, like good luck Execration, maybe trying to find a nice sparring partner over at SEA or something that'll actually do them some good.
Fair enough. All right,
Annie, you haven't said anything. Well, Annie, you're so quiet.
I don't know
Annie,
these
are you
players,
okay?
man. I'm just a little caster. I just started from nothing.
Oh,
here.
so you've never casted? I thought you were casting DPL. You don't know about like LGD, newbie? You don't
I
know?
can't say I talk with them regularly now.
Oh, I thought you speak Chinese. That's what I heard.
Yeah, man.
Well, let
speak
me
so much
ask you
Chinese.
this, Annie. Do you think that LGD's new invite to NaN Yang stands a chance of ruining DC's run to the top of that tournament?
Honestly, no. I think LGD are playing the same kind of Dota they've been playing for years, and I think DC are shaking it up in a way that's working for them. So I think DC, they're putting up a hell of a fight, and they could definitely take out LGD.
All right. See, that was good, right? So you just got it's got to be game related. I like that. All right. So speaking of game related, we're gonna push NEL as a topic. For those of you who are asking for discussion of NEL, we'll get to that. But I want to stay on this sort of game focused stuff. Let's talk about qualifiers, because that was the last big thing that went on. And the one thing that I found interesting was, for instance, the last game of the North America qualifiers, I think we can all agree was freaking awesome. That best of 5 series went all the way.
Yeah, it was,
the turn.
yeah.
I feel like the whole thing was a lot of fun to watch. A lot of people shit on the North American qualifier starting out early on. Do you think that the NA qualifier hate was warranted? Did it get disproved as unnecessary? What do you guys think about all that?
There's not even a debate. Like, there was drinking boys.
Whoa! What do you mean
there was vulture noise.
Let's name it. How many European players qualified from different regions?
I know what you're saying. I know the NA.
Demon was in SEA.
Yeah, because they all
Europe was won by an American team.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the joke was the regional qualifiers themselves in NA. Just the way that everything has to come out because of roster locks and everything, the way that Open Qualifiers was, that was hype. Open Qualifiers was hype.
Wait, you do stats for complexity, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying it's a lower tier team. Why'd complexity lose to FDL in that best of 1 then? Why'd they get dumpstered on?
Yeah, well, they also beat EG and DC, so...
Yeah, and they still didn't qualify, so...
Yeah, they goofed. Yeah.
No, I'll let them go on. I disagree with them both, so I'll let them talk.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a debate when it comes to the actual format of the regional qualifiers compared to other regions, because of the way roster locks works, can even be argued that it wasn't a total joke, just because, like...
That's a difference.
Qualifiers, good.
You look at the caliber of teams that qualified from, or were invited for regionals from Europe and from China and from SEA, and then you look at drinking boys, and it's kind of a mockery just because of the roster lock system. And I think the 6 invites from NA tell a big story there. And
but that's more of
were hype as hell, and the playoffs for regionals were amazing, but the actual invited teams mean that NA was kind of a...
That's more Valve's fault. I understand the whole staying together as a team. Great. Should that get you invited? No. Voltour Gaming's official match roster was 0-1. I understand. Okay, you're staying together. Wow, Valve appreciates team and friendship or whatever. But if you don't play a game together, why do you get an invite? I agree. You should have a steady roster, but you should also have results. They should have just done more open qualifiers, but that would undermine their greater scheme of being the boss.
Making everyone NA friends.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do you think the problem was just the open qualifier system? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone can agree with that.
So the qualifiers were tough in North America, or a shit show in North America up front. The back end of the qualifiers the last couple of days was a lot of fun to watch because things got more competitive. What was your take on the other regions? I know a couple of you got to spend late nights covering those regions as well. What did you come away with as we head towards the big show? What did you come away with qualifiers thinking?
Europe is unbelievably volatile. I don't think there's any top one or two teams. I think there's teams that have been performing well, but even after the first day of regional quals, there was no team that was undefeated. There was no team that went completely like all losses. Everyone could take a game off each other, and that's just showing how dynamic these teams are right now. And if there were more spots at TI, I think Europe is going to be one of the regions that should have taken more.
Okay.
So you're saying... No. I don't think escape gaming is at the echelon of even complexity. I think the wild card escape gaming is going to be exposed so hard. That's why I bet I'll eat. I bet that I would eat uncooked socks at the actual event if escape gaming through wild card. I'm that convinced that complexity is just so much of a tier above the European.
Yeah, and this is what we're talking about when it comes to a joke thing. The regional qualifiers are a joke because the top 3 teams in NA can maybe secret, I'll give them a pass, but other than that, they can easily compete with Navi, and I would take them over Navi in any game. I would take them over Escape Gaming in any game, all 3 from NA, and those are the people that came out of EU. So the problem with NA regionals was Vulture Gaming and Drinking Boys. Like that's the issue. Other than that,
it was 2 freebies.
Boys.
Even though Drinking Boys probably could be escape gaming, I think.
I mean, probably. I mean, let's be honest. Did you guys see that those earlier games today?
They did. Okay, Drinking Boys did almost beat Complexity. Don't you remember that game? That was a 50-minute game. I don't want to know what was going on in TeamSpeak during that, but
you never want to know what's going on at that time.
I really don't. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Chinese region looks, once again, I think it's Chinese. Like if we're talking about the top echelon teams, it's Chinese in America, then Europe, and then. I don't know if you can see on my webcam, but I'm touching the floor is where SEA is at. So, yeah.
Okay. So it was SEA. I didn't watch any of the SEA qualifiers, I'll be blunt and honest, mostly because I had to find time to sleep, and that was my chosen time. Did any of you, I don't remember who covered it, tell me a little bit about it. Was it that devastating to watch? Is it... Because I've heard rumors that they're an emerging scene that we should all think is going to be like the next NA, whereas NA sort of was emerging a couple years ago. Is SEA the next big thing, or not so much?
Flashes of brilliance. That can be.
Yes,
SEA, they gave us the mid-jug in some ways, maybe a little bit from MVP, but TNC, I'm going to give them that. The mid-PL, that was kind of a starting out SEA thing. They have some stuff that goes well. Some teams like TNC does pretty well. Even Mineski, up and down. Demon Dota, ladies and gentlemen.
Just America dominating another scene. It's happened.
Just another region.
Yeah, just another region. I honestly think TNC, I think the funniest thing to say, though, is didn't everyone going in, it's like, oh, Fnatic didn't get invited because they're just going to destroy everyone. It's like a free invite, not inviting them. And then TNC loses in round of 64 open qualifiers. Then they win the second one, and then they get it directly invited when they win. I don't know. I just thought that was crazy. Fnatic didn't get first, after they should have been so many tiers above everyone else.
Yeah, I paneled a little bit during SEA, and just from the games I saw, I think people were really expecting SEA to be like the top 2 or 3 teams and then a really steep drop-off in talent, but it was actually a lot more even than a lot of people were expecting, which is really great for the up-and-coming teams, the underdogs, but the top teams are now kind of scrambling.
That makes sense. And I think even's good for developing a scene. You just want to eventually see teams rise to the top. Speaking of teams rising to the top among a competitive scene, I want to ask you this because we haven't done a show since we did one after invites, but it wasn't intense. I didn't have a lot of NA Dota guests. Motpax, you're from Canada or something, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Ooh, sorry.
Everybody else is North American. I know you guys all follow
Canada's North America too.
America's Dota. Well, no. I mean, sorry. You know what I mean. It's late. Don't worry about it. Okay, we all live in America. We're all American Dota followers because of the fact that we live in this area. Should any of the teams who had to slog through qualifiers been directly invited to the big show? Did somebody get screwed, and if so, who was it?
Yeah, EG. No. They're the returning champions. It doesn't matter if they literally changed one player. Because I came back and he was technically their substitute. Right. They changed one player. They're the returning. Newbie looked like straight garbage at TI5, but they got invited because there was no roster locks. This whole roster lock thing really just jimmied extremely good teams who changed a player or two.
I agree that I think some of the infights were wacky, but I commend Valve for making these rules about roster locks, enforcing them, and then making a system where the roster locks are used.
If you know the roster locks are bad, like everyone knew, like 3 months in, like, okay, we're to our first major. This is a 2-major roster lock. At that point, we knew it was stupid. The fact that they stuck
this is my issue as well. Like, why do we have a patch for a game every like month, and yet we have this stupid rule that ruins like an entire year in some ways? And I wanted a sappy blog post about Valve saying what they did and how it didn't work out, and so we're gonna bring back EG. And that was like my dream scenario, but knowing Valve, it was like 10% chance that was even going to happen, and so EG has to go and stomp.
Yeah, but can you imagine the shitstorm if EG then got a direct invite after Valve had worked so hard to enforce all this stuff?
Yeah, they worked hard. Don't do it.
Really sappy.
They worked hard. It was a stupid call. The EG thing, they should have been invited. They're the returning champions. They have 4 of the same 5. It's just dumb. Besides that, I don't know. Navi's kind of garbage, but it's fine. You got to invite somebody.
All right, fair enough. So that's about the time we have for that topic. Let's keep rolling forward. And this one sort of piggybacks off of that. You guys brought up the EG secret thing in opens. Some teams, I was reading a bunch of weird articles or things about how other teams were saying it's just not fair to us to have to go up against these teams. They're just too good. I mean, if you watch the open qualifiers, I think there was 1 or 2 maybe close calls, but for the most part, EG and Secret just lambasted their way through the round ones. Even to the point where, like, and I talked to you about this, Grant, Danish Bears is one of my dark horses to get through qualifiers, and they got shut down by Secret and lost their chance to go. Some people were saying that's unfair. There should have been another spot. We knew that they would get through, and it kind of screws over an open team like a Danish Bears that deserved a shot at qualifiers. Do you think there's any credence to that, or is that...
No.
Okay.
I think if you're playing in TI qualifiers, the goal is to qualify for TI and play up against Tier 1 teams. If you genuinely think you have a shot at that, you should be able to go up against Tier 1 teams.
There you go. All right. You guys agree with that?
That's pretty much what it comes down to. I think there was an argument for possibly more slots in the regionals, but again, that would be more about the whole like rewarding going against the Valve rules, so that wasn't going to happen, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, like, all you could do for that is kind of hope to survive longer in the tournament before you face those teams.
Yeah, then you might get the wild card, like Escape.
Yeah, but then what? Then you go up against these Tier 1 teams and lose again on
Then you get to go to Seattle and talk to the teams and get a free shot into that prize pool.
Yeah, you don't realize, like, TI5, Narvi 2 versus Team Tinker was a team that got... Narvi 2 literally came together a month before. Meanwhile, Team Tinker flew out players over, and then they lost. And guess what? Narvi 2 didn't make any money, but they got a free freaking trip to Seattle, and they got to hang out with all their friends. Meanwhile, Team Tinker's crying over in Europe, so...
A free trip, a VIP booth, like all the things that go along with that. Because I mean, they still got to sit in that booth and watch everything. I mean, it's a pretty swaggy trip. So
yeah, so Annie, you're wrong, is what we're saying. I would deduct points if I was Toffees, but I'm not. So I'll let him do his thing.
But I mean, at the end of the day, your point is valid. You want to be in the open qualifiers. This isn't just fun time for your amateur team. You're in this to go to the big show, and if you can't handle it, don't bitch about it. So,
I mean, if it's a regional qualifier, that's all best of ones, by the way, which, okay. A Danish Bears, if it's any team that could take a bunch of games in a best of one, they're one of those. So it's just like, if you get through these open qualifiers, because you don't face Team Secret, in the middle of there. I mean, then again, they got knocked out by MDL stack in like qualifier 2, so whatever. Danish Bears were donezo.
It's because their heart was hurt by Secret. That's where I stand on that one, okay?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Momentum.
Whatever. Rise will be great. Anyway, okay. So let's dude, just give it time. Give it time. All right, let's move on to the next topic here. We talked about that. Fairness on spots, whatever. Suck it up. It's TI. We've got the teams. Let's move on. Wildcards. You guys sort of talked about this. I was going to say who gets the spots, and I assume that we're knocking Escape completely off of this discussion based on what I'm hearing from you guys, but let's ask it anyway. Wildcards are solidified. Complexity, eHome, Escape, Execretion. Is it a no-brainer as to which teams advance? Who do you think it's going to be?
eHome, Complexity.
No, that's what I have. I think Escape, I mean, I could see people arguing for them, but I don't see them doing it.
They need to really shape up in the next couple of months. Like, they need to, I can see them doing it already. They're diversifying their strats. They're not going with this whole double bubble, relying on just Lone Druid every time to like win one team fight and take a Rax, because frankly, that was getting a little bit old. The whole Enigma thing, they kind of maybe are trying to sleep on, I'm not sure, because they're just not picking it a lot, even when they have a good setup for it. And maybe that's the plan. And maybe they can get some of these other strats going, but currently, they only look good in like one certain way, and even today during their games, they're looking like they're falling flat, and they're not TI caliber ready. So a lot of work to do. I'm sure they'd agree. I don't think they disagree with me right now, just saying that.
Yeah, I have complexity cruising right through, and then I think the other one could be a toss-up. I think, honestly, all teams are looking good at this point. Escape.
Except Execration. I don't.
Well, I mean, they look good against other Tier 6 teams.
I mean, I had them in the
Can't
ball.
say they look bad.
Like, if I had looked at who got invited to that regional qualifier, I would have had Execration last, just from my general, like, I cast a lot of SEA Dota, and the past couple months, Execration were just like, boop, and then they just go 7-2 during these best of ones. So, I don't know, maybe they'll shock and surprise coming to TI as well, but teams like Rave, Mineski, Signature Trust, Warriors Gaming actually did look pretty good in the coming months. Again, it's in a smaller region, but it certainly was a shock, I would say.
So then let me follow this forward. It seems to be we're giving Complexity eHome the advance unless something big happens. Can any of those 4 teams make it to the top 5 at TI? Can any of those teams make it to the point, really compete with the big dogs right now?
I think an on-form eHome and Complexity could, yeah.
Okay.
No, probably not. Like, if we're talking like I think the top tier teams are so far ahead. Like the OGs, Liquids. I would even put maybe EG and Secret a little below them in the top tier Chinese. I like Complexity, but I just don't see them going that high. I think eHome has a little better chance, but even they don't. I don't think.
So let's talk Complexity for a second. They're a team that, if you guys watch the show, we've had some as a guest. We followed them sort of since they came upon us in the region, and I think that they're a good team. They were actually performing really, really well. I felt like when the stack first formed, and we've seen some struggles along the way. Is that just growing pains, or when they're on form? Okay, so because when they're on form, they feel like they could beat most teams out there, but it's been tough lately.
To me, it feels like they're kind of an escape gaming. They have kind of one thing they play well. I think they do it better than escape gaming, but it feels like they need to diversify their bonds. Kind of, I don't know, maybe. But I'm not the Complexity gaming master.
Investing like 10% gold or something like that,
exactly.
you know?
Like
yeah.
10%, not play the same strategy every game. Yeah.
What?
Like,
No
the
axe?
games they won, the games 3 and 4, when it didn't look like they had a setup draft. When I was watching, like I said it on the panel, I'm like their first 2 drafts, like. It looks like Swindle went in and he's like, I want these 5 heroes, and he got them, and they lost. And then when it looks like he was freestyling, it looks like they were winning games. I don't know what that says, but that's what it felt like to me.
To me, they're the one team, and maybe it's just because I've worked with them and I talk with them quite a bit, but they're a team that when I watch them, I can like see the way that emotions seem to affect this team. Like you can actually kind of watch plays where you're just like, oh, what just happened there? Or like, why did he just go in there? Or why didn't he back right there? It seems that you can more obviously see some of these communication problems and everything. And I wish I could just say that, oh, and they'll just shape it up by TI. They got time to work on it. But that's been a consistent issue for like 6 months where I just like watch these guys and you can see like the skills that they have, but it seems like they're not able to bring it together in a lot of instances. So I assume that'll just be their downfall once more if they can't fix it.
And so let me ask you this: as guys, you all 3 have sat on panels and done a ton of casting lately. Well, I guess Motpax, you haven't sat on a panel. You maybe sat on a bench. So as you sit on panels and watch this, you've seen sort of, and I think Grant, and we can all attest to this. The tournaments have changed, right? It's no longer just the top 3 are going to be the top 3 anymore. Now it's anybody in the top, even I'd say up to 10 or 13 at this point, could compete for the top spots. How important is what Motpax just brought up? Relationships and communication and synergy during a game versus just mechanical mastery. Like, is it enough to have the 5 best mechanical players?
God, if only there was some team that recently tried something like that.
What team? I'm lost.
Oh, I mean,
Secret. But they had Eternal Envy, so they didn't have 5 great mechanical players. They had 4. And that's not anything in him. We've talked about in person. I don't think he's the greatest player, but they did try that. But it's like EG. I'm pretty sure Universe, Sumail are like 2 of the best mechanically gifted players of all time besides Patzel. But that's a different story again. And we see Complexity. What did they get at TI 5? Was it 8th? They got 8th, right?
Yeah.
I feel they weren't the most gifted team there, but their teamwork literally felt like is what carried them. But I think we're actually moving away from that, like the Team Secret. I don't know. It should have done really good, but I think we're moving back. Like, you can see the upper echelon players like the Miracles, Arteesias, and Sumails just dominate like other mid players super hard. Even like Fada looks kind of bad against Miracle. Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy.
So in your opinion, we have passed the time of the power of friendship and we're moving back towards, I mean, does it feel like we're moving into like an NBA system where they sort of pick one superstar and then build 4 people around it?
A little bit. I mean, I'll let someone else take this one.
No, I think it's very easy to look at someone like OG and say that, where you're just like, oh, they just pick 4 heroes, they work around Miracle, they pick some weird heroes for No Tail, he does his thing, life is good. And some other teams, I suppose, are starting to mirror that, like PR lately have been doing that a lot with Goddamn, they run a lot of Terrorblade or something along the same lines, but overall, I think it's okay to take a look at someone like Liquid and OG and be like, power of friendship, man. OG got the Miracle, they do. But Liquid, they have a Miracle. I don't think they have a Miracle, like a weapon. That was what Charlie called them once, and I thought that was really good to say that Miracle is that weapon. But like Matumba Man, I mean, Ursa, weapon.
Yeah, I agree. But you have Kuroki, like one of the longest standing players who's drafting for you an in-game captaining, and themselves the weapon. And then you have like Mind Control, somebody who like kind of was a Sumail, FPL Europe. He got like noticed from there, but I think you're kind of right. It's literally, I think both strats are viable right now. Like, let's do the team secret, or let's do like this Liquid, like you said. And I guess we'll see after TI6. We'll line the top 8 up and see if it's friendship or good at the game.
Yeah, well, I also think that there's the really high-skilled mechanical players like you're talking about. There's those superstars, but there's something to be said with a team with a lot of trust in each other, because with all the roster swaps going around and everyone saying, you know what, screw it, we're going to kick our players, go through open qualifiers as if that's an easy decision. I think having a team where you're not afraid to mess up and you trust each other and you know that you're going to be together as a team even through mess-ups and even through failures is super important, because if you're always playing like you're scared of getting kicked, then you're not going to perform.
Right. It seems to a certain extent like OG has a very good balance of these two things, and enjoy watching them because of that. The question is, what will it evolve to? Now, let's move to another topic here that we sort of alluded to. You mentioned the discovery of a player in the, what I think you said, the Chinese version of the NEL. NEL is back. In-house leagues are on the rise again.
You're welcome, first off, but go on.
Oh, yeah. As the expert in NEL, I can field these questions for you. Don't worry.
Well, NEL,
why you brought me here today,
night. A lot of people were joking about how NEL last night was just a big scrim between EG and OG and mixing up players, which I thought was a pretty entertaining observation. Grant, I think, casted it for like 8 hours. Well, he casted it for like 4 hours and then just talked out of his ass for 4. But
I mean, come on, man. It was 10. 10 hours, 9 games. I had to go run out and get a pizza. But I'm surprised the game. It was a Tinker game. I'm like, it's a Tinker. Artesian on Tinker. I got 30 minutes. Ran out, grabbed a pizza, came back. Game was still going. That was his Bloodstone mishap. I missed that, unfortunately.
Nice to see. So we're going to talk about NEL, but what I really want to angle towards is these in-house leagues and sort of what they do for the scene. Is this a great way for amateurs to break through? Because it feels like new blood in the pro scene is, I don't want to say lacking, but not something that we're discovering at a rapid pace anymore. Now, we're going to talk about that, but we're going to do it after a quick message from GameLeap.
GameLeap wants to know, do you want to improve and win?
That was good.
With over 400 professional guides by 6.5k plus players updated daily, unleash your potential. Master the most up-to-date strategies and secrets of professional players. We guarantee that you will gain MMR and dominate. Visit us at www.game-leap.com.
All right, we're back, guys. This is Around the Pit. My name's Toffees. I'm joined by GranDGranT, AnneeDroid, and Motpax. You can find their Twitters at GranDGranT, at AnneeDroid, or at Motpax. That was the easiest I've ever had to do Twitter handles, so thank you for that.
Yeah, shout out to Ryu for finally fixing his, by the way. That was like the worst thing ever to type if you had him co-casting.
Ryu Uberus. It's yeah, that was a little brutal. I'm sure that Grant has strong opinions about that old Twitter handle. That said, let's talk about other things. I'm just kidding. Other things that that Grant has strong opinions about: the NEL in-house leagues. Let me ask you this: is this an avenue for fresh blood into the scene, or is this just a place for pros to play with their friends?
That one. I think right now, I think when NEL first happened, there was so many players playing, like 200 to 300, like start games would happen and stuff. Right now, it's definitely the Friends one, but why should we try to get new blood in the scene when TI6 is literally right around the corner? I already know, I've heard rumors, apparently FPL NA is coming back after TI, and I think that'll be a bigger avenue. But right now, this is literally, I mean, these teams are about to play for like $20 million, and they're fine just playing the highest caliber of Dota. I mean, it's like right now, I had to host and admin this game. Mind Control's actually in it. I don't know if he's in America right now, but he's playing, and it feels like the one you said, the playing with friends, playing the highest caliber they can.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, like you mentioned, TI6 around the corner, but after that, teams are going to be looking to shuffle things up, and they want that new blood. But if you look at without NEL, without those in-house leagues, how can you get into the scene? You can be a pub star, you can be friends with the players, you can have connections, but there's not really a way for you to get into the scene without having like an absurd MMR, and people with absurd MMRs don't necessarily make the best teammates.
Yeah, that's another thing to talk about. IX Mike said, if you're an unknown player and you want to get in the league, you need to have a 6.5 KMR or above without hero spamming. He requires Dota buff. If you spam, say, Elder Titan or Alchemist, like 50 games to gain MMR, you're not getting invited.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Like, that is going to be a big change for this league as well.
Have fun.
And when we're talking about new blood, that's huge because Mike's actually like screening this whole process where he's like, okay, well, I think he said if I don't have a bad experience with you, then you can get in like above that MMR ranking. But, this guy, he grinds. He knows the people that are just like, all right, it's not going to be fun in an in-house.
And there are still, like, new blood. Like, even in the open qualifiers, that EG Boba team, no one knew who Kitrak was before that. And he's like a 7.5 MMR player, just high MMR. And Ritsu's like, yeah, he's pretty good. And now he's in the league, too. He's one of those people. But, yeah, I think at this moment how NEL is, it's just it's not for new blood. I mean, the newest blood in this game is literally Yawar and Ritsu.
Right.
And the rest are sponsored players. And those are already very high caliber players who have been on sponsored teams.
And have been around and are well known in the scene. So let me ask you this. Is there a need for new blood in the scene? Do you think that we're missing out on talent that just maybe can't get discovered? And if you're that guy, if you're watching this show because you're a hardcore Dota-ite and you've been playing for years and you're waiting for your chance to break through, what's the best way to get found? I mean, clearly that like you can't just spam games and hope someone sees you, or is that what you have to do?
I mean,
right now, that's what you have to do. Right now, you just have to play enough high-level ranked games and hope someone notices you.
Yep, that's who Sumail was found. Sumail was found in a pub before NEL. Universe was like, oh, this guy's good. Hey, Mike, you should just vouch for an NEL. Back when like NEL wasn't like it is now, like 40 games a day was like 5 or 6 games at night, and Universe had Sumail in. He like went like 13-0 in his games, and yeah, I think it's still the same. If you're good in public games, you're gonna get a chance. Like Admiral Bulldog, he was the same way. He got a chance just from being good in pubs, and make it count, or else you're gone.
There's a much higher chance these days too, because back then there wasn't ladders, so there wasn't like actually a public way to show like like all that attention Batman got, right? On forums and everything. It's like, whoa, who's this guy? Well, he just keeps going up, man. Like, who the hell is this guy? And so he's out. But if you could turn around maybe with a couple heroes, you'd be okay. So that kind of there's a little bit of a dichotomy because now it's like all the known players are now going to move into this in-house league for several months, leading to TI, and maybe that'll breathe some room into some of those players that they still have to find a way to interact with these pros to get into the league, but with their MMR and everything, maybe they can wean their way in through IX Mike.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting. I don't know. Right now, there's no new blood. People just want to do their best, and they just want to maybe play with their friends. PPD might already quit the league because he's with like how Tops is saying he wishes it was more start game. 10 people sign, it's random teams. Right now, it's been Yawar captain against Crit for the last 10 games. And they pretty much pick the same teams every game. So
NEL right now is pick your team, not sort of a random 5-on-5 distribution.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's because Crit wants CL. It's literally Crit right now. Because apparently, I believe they're in Canada for their boot camp.
Gotcha.
In their land for, I think, Summit. So they're all in Canada, and they're playing the same room. But, I mean, they're not even on the same team. It's just Crit's the one call. If you want to blame anyone for the no start games, no new blood, blame OG Crit.
All right, fair enough. That's anybody else last thoughts on IHLs and what they're doing before we move on here?
I think after TI, it's going to be an important way for the teams to reform with new blood. I think if even one or two players kind of grinds their way up and gets themselves on a tier 2, tier 3 team, then that's enough. That's a way to show that it's worthwhile. But for now, I think the only way to get noticed is those ultra-high MMR pubs.
Yep. Certainly going to depend on some certain rules regarding rosters post-TI. I got noticed this in-house league. See you guys in 4 months.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so that's pretty interesting. Now, the last thing that is sort of all over the place is the VP Polarity disband. The organization, Virtus Pro, came out and basically said players are immature, our infrastructure in the area isn't good enough. Parents sort of tell you to stop playing Dota and don't give you the respect you need to make you feel like it's a real thing. And they said they feel like really good managers could potentially fix this problem. Do you guys have any thoughts on sort of the VP Polarity CIS situation where we know there was even drama, like I think it was Team Spirit had an issue with some players because the old guys were serious and the young guys were too cavalier and they couldn't work together. So this keeps happening in CIS. A, do you think that there's a solution? And B, is it happening in other regions and we're just not hearing about it?
I would just say condolences to Empire if they don't have really deep pockets, because they're the only team that's left with like a real name basically at this point. So hopefully they can hold on to whatever players they actually want, because it is going to be a total shit show. Navi's at TI and no one else is.
I'd say literally just Navi. After people talk about how good CIS is.
They need their own region.
Yeah, they need it, everyone. I can't wait to watch what was the big team that didn't make it through the open qualifiers? Was that Spirit?
Who didn't make it? Yeah, Spirit didn't make it through.
Spirit. Yeah, they need their own region so they could, I just think, I agree. A lot of players are immature, but he was only talking about his region when he said that, right?
Yes, he was.
I can't really talk about that because I think NA is actually grown up a lot with complexity. The people on EG and DC, they show up on time to stuff. I guess it's a pretty low bar to set, but they do that.
Yeah,
in the end, they're all a bunch of teenagers playing video games. I mean, I don't know how regional it is.
I spent a lot of time in the Tier 2 Europe scene casting up those, those tournaments, and I think the biggest thing with CIS is there's so much talent. Like, the individual skill is ridiculous. It's, can they make a cohesive team? Can they show up on time for their games? Can they not flame each other in the all chats and the lobbies? And I think that's where a manager doesn't really help. Yeah, a manager will kick their ass and make them show up on time, but if these aren't people that are willing to take this seriously as a career, then what are they doing?
Didn't we have similar problems in North America not long ago?
I don't think it's the thing is, I think it was a problem in CIS. I think in NA, it's strange to say. I think all of NA is mostly friends now, which is weird to say. Like, if you see a Ritsu trash talking at Fear, even earlier, I just saw Fear said, "I'm glad I can't just play two heroes like another Morph player." And Ritsu, he's like, "Oh, he's here." Like, I think they're all friends in NA, and it doesn't make that big a difference. But in CIS, it does feel like there's a lot more enemies per se among the teams than actually friends. So
that makes it really hard to reform the teams when people drop and you have to replace members. I mean, you can't just pick up any support. There's individual grudges. There's teamwork issues. There's people that don't have their egos touched nicely by the other players.
That's true. You don't have your egos touched nicely. It sounds like one of those dirty things. Anyway. And I guess that's a lot of position. Is it's sort of, we don't really know what's going on over there. Every time news seems to come in, it's about players conflicting with organizations to a certain extent, as well as with each other. And I hope that they get better, because I think that, and I could be wrong here, I like watching CIS Dota. When they're playing at the top of their game, it's exciting, and it's a lot of fun, because they're kind of crazy in the way that they do things.
Just throw bodies onto the field.
Well, I mean, like, if you watch, like, old Empire, remember Empire before the last TI, like, just going balls out, crazy plays, and it was so much fun. I miss them. I guess that's my mini soapbox.
I miss the old the Vegos CIS scene, I guess to say, where teams just did that, like 5 blink daggers on every
Dota.
Yeah, exactly. That I think everyone missed that. The problem is that doesn't really work now. You need the mind of a puppy or a Peter leading you, being like, Sumail, what the hell are you doing? Why are you diving middle? He's like, sorry, sir. And then, you need that. And I don't think they have that synchronization there.
And I feel like Lil tried to do the same thing. So, because that was two of the best support players really in the CIS region, would be FNG and Lil. They both split. They make their respective squads. And I guess maybe because they are, at least Lil being new to the leadership role and the captaining and whatnot, that didn't end up working out. But kind of surprised FNG didn't have a little bit of a better time. I kind of thought they might be able to make a run during the regionals. I don't think that they're much further behind the rest of the European team. Like, we're giving them so much trash, but it's not like the rest of the European team was that much ahead of a lot of the CIS teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it has some of the strongest players. Polarity was my favorite to go through and take the open qualifiers lot. They didn't make it, unfortunately, but I think they performed really well. Iceberg is unbelievably individually talented, and I hope he reforms on a team. But again, the CIS region, that's really hard because there's not many people that want to take on new teams. There's a lack of captains and managers and people that all want to stick together as 5. Everyone wants to be the superstar.
Interesting. Well, maybe
They could do really well with an in-house league. I think that would be pretty crazy.
Actually, yeah, I think that could work.
Maybe if they had some sort of EUDota.com or someone who's willing to host games and sit there and lose
someone,
but they don't.
like a godfather of CIS Dota.
That's the problem. No, they don't have it. Like, Loda tried to do an FPL EU. I mean, it kind of failed. Yeah, it just failed. Like, they didn't
LeBron Dota won that first one, and look where he is now.
Elements Gaming, right? He's playing NEL. That's the only reason I knew, because I always see his tag now. But he's playing NEL, so go him, I guess.
Well, let's just say this. Let's hope that maybe this CIS debacle that's going on right now and sort of the lack of presence at TI serves as a wake-up call to these players. And says,
what if,
bring 'em back.
hear me out, what if Vigos and PGG come back? That would be the ultimate, everyone would love CIS again. I think that might be the play.
I would like
He's
to watch PGG.
he's all up on the analyst desk now, PGG.
He could come back. Light of Heaven as well. Light of Heaven, PG. Light of Heaven was the best player at one point in the world. He could definitely come back and do it again.
And I think you brought something up. You said they need the the Peters, these sort of puppies, these leaders. But when Spirit had their breakdown, one of the issues they had is the youth wouldn't accept the leadership of the senior players. They'd say, "I don't trust you. You're wrong." And it seems like maybe that's the growing pains they have to go through of young players sucking it up and saying,
That was old Iceberg Ramses, right? Before the last iteration.
Yeah.
And it's true, because, I mean, everyone can imagine Sumail would say the same thing about Peter, but he sucks it up, and he's won a TI because of it, I'm sure. And now he's like, wow, I've learned a lot. It really is, like you said, about, like, get over yourself kind of thing.
Right? Get over yourself and fix your hair. All right. That said, let's go to... here's a quick topic. This is a light, this is a fast one. I'm just curious what you guys are going to say. The topic's called Demon Hunting, and I think you know what this alludes to. Demon, the consummate North American mercenary. He's the guy who's called in when you need to stand in. He's the guy who, finds a team for every qualifier, found a team, left the team, went to another region and joined the team, then got through qualifiers. So what we see, do you think that we are going to see a little bit of this in the future where sort of these mechanically skilled top tier players look for these groups of 3 or 4 who are very good together, if that makes sense? Because he basically found a team of 4 guys who loved playing together and knew each other, and then joined them as the missing piece. Is that something we could see a lot of?
And then left them and went to SEA for the same thing. But yeah, shout out to Jimmy for not doing shit all year and still making it to the TI.
It is
a serious hand right there.
That's not even flaming. That is
I'm
legitimately impressive what he did this year. That's insane. That he's literally, there's no wild card. He's literally in the event. But I think answering your question, I think teams said that about NA last year when Team Tinker kind of did the same thing. I'm really surprised more teams haven't taken advantage of the SCA region. The fact that Demon did is just smart on him. And also, apparently, he never went to Peru. I thought he had, but he
didn't actually get there. Yeah, he was going. It was fully planned. He was supposed to arrive.
But there's a good chance. Look at what team's K Phoenix on? KP, my bad, KP, I guess how he goes too.
Oh, KP newbie? KP.
Yeah, newbie. He did the same thing. I guess it's a different, he went, because he's from Australia. He just went around. He's like, oh, cool, I can play a Chinese team and be really good. I think we'll see more of it, but I think, once again, that'll go away because more people will get better, and then they'll just want to play with their own people again. But Demon, I want to say he abused the system, and he got away with it, and good for him.
All hub, Grant was telling me, look how strong NA is, because Demon just qualified in the SEA region as an NA player.
And look at Europe, how many, what was the first place team? How many North Americans?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that North America has become so volatile and
so good,
not fun to play with, that people realize, you know what, all you have to do is strong mechanics, leave, find good leadership, find a good following, and you can qualify.
But, no, because Demon is the leader of the team. He's the captain. He didn't find the leadership. He did it himself.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Improving America.
Leader. I think NA Dota seriously lacks leaders, and if you really want to build up NA Dota, the way to do that isn't exporting your strong leaders to regions that are easier to go through.
Well, Demons tried to lead teams here, and it's not worked out, has it?
Yeah, but whose fault was it now? Because Demon just made it to TI. So.
Oh my god, it was fluff and stuff. I'm just kidding.
Whoa. This is a no blog broadcast.
No, it is. I agree, though, with the whole, there really aren't that many captains. And besides the top tier NA, who do you have? You have PPD, you have Swindle, you have Misery, who's not even from NA. And then I think the next tier you have Stan King, who I haven't heard much about. And then I think you have Bleak, who apparently retired from Dota. I talked with him a lot, and he was the one who led a team with Ush and other people on it to a TI. That's good captaining. But he's gone. And I think good captains are very hard to come by now. I think I agree.
If you can lead Ush
those captains and you put them to other regions, you captain them on teams without more NA players, and you're just kind of weakening the region that you want to be representing.
Fair. All right, so I was curious what you guys' thoughts were on Demon. That's it for major topics I wanted to go over. Say what?
I said love him.
Yeah,
my opinion on Demon, love him then.
Yeah, I thumbs up, man. Long time Demon watcher, Demon supporter, and I had no faith in that TNC live. I mean,
after the first open qualifier, I don't think anyone did.
Oh, no, at all.
64. What the hell?
Right.
Later, dude.
It's crazy.
I actually remember a stream earlier this year. I was watching him stream, and he was talking about how do I really want to get back to playing Dota at a high level. Where do I find relevancy? And kudos to him for finding the right team in the right region and getting himself back into it, and maintaining a Red Bull sponsorship the entire time without playing. So that's
can I use my pedestal here?
Nutrition.
Yeah, go ahead. Soapbox.
How long do I have?
Yeah,
1 minute? Okay.
1 minute.
I want to give a shout out to all the old NA captains we had in Dota 1, especially one, Paint It Gold, who took Quanic, like Korok, over to a DreamHack in 2012 when NA teams couldn't make it anywhere. Paint It Gold is now, he's planning on going to TI6 just as a spectator. He's sad. A lot of the NA people he doesn't know are coming back, but he was one of those people who carried Dota 1 NA scene was very small. It was like Paint It Gold, Korok, Fear, and Bulba were like the only 4 captains during that time, like the late period of Dota 1, and they carried us to where we are now. There wouldn't be PPDs or Swindles from Han if there wasn't a Painted Gold in Dota 1. That's all I have. Shouts Painted Gold, Josh.
Nice. That's a good shout. That's a quality soapbox usage. All right, guys.
Right in the feels right
Hit
there.
you right in the feels.
Very emotional.
I love Josh. Okay, sorry.
Warms my belly, and it takes a lot to warm this giant fucking thing. All right, let's talk about the lightning round. This is basically we give a topic. I'm going to randomly hit a randomizer, see who gets the topic at first, and you get 1 minute to give your opinions on this. And I don't care what your opinion is. They can disagree. They can agree. If someone says your point, feel free to reiterate it. But I want to know, this is a topic that I think a lot of you probably are passionate about because it's going to affect the next year of Dota, and it's roster locks. How do we fix them, or do they need to be fixed? And a randomizer, hold on a second. Motpax, you're going to start us off. 1 minute on the clock. Do your thing.
Okay, well, we can just cut out the second half of that question of do they need to be fixed, because clearly they need to be fixed. Something needs to change. It's going to be a tough decision, and no matter what, you're going to be cutting stuff from one end. It's either going to be less control from Valve, and then obviously, like at some point, you need to find a middle ground between Valve control and player control. How much does each one have over, like maybe the sway of a team versus getting invited to events? Assuming we're never going to get into some sort of a system where there is a point system meriting you into invites, and we're just going to have the mystery pulling names out of a hat. Bruno's got the magic ball to determine who gets a magical invite and how many there will be, because that's just our scene right now. There needs to be some sort of a team agreement where they actually take responsibility themselves to say, okay, we as a team want this guy out. We as a team are bringing in this guy, and that should go to the team. I don't think it's fair that an organization as Valve can say, all right, well, you guys want to swap with this player? Well, that's too bad. We are player protectors, and this is a human being who you are trampling on his dreams, and so you must all suffer. I think that's just wrong.
Fair enough. I like that. It's a good. We are human protectors. Next up is going to be Annie. You've got 1 minute on the clock. What are your thoughts?
I think it is broken at the moment. I think it is potentially Valve imposing this new system saying we need stability, and this is the year of teams rebelling against it. They're testing their limits. They're pushing it. They're trying to go through open quals. It's the initial resistance before teams maybe lay down and say, all right, you want a team of 5 people, we'll make a team of 5 people, we stick with it. So that could be one option. The other option is we have a patch after every major, roster lock after every major, because there are teams that are strong on one patch, incredibly weak on another, and you need to be able to adjust that. Forcing a team to you, pick a team for a certain patch, then the patch changes and you're going to have a weak team through no fault of their own, when you could easily adjust it, make a quick swap, and have a very strong team, I think is unfair. That's Valve saying, you know what, we're going to mess around, we're going to change the game, but you can't change the way you play it. That's difficult. I think you either make the patches coincide with the locks and have 4 locks, 4 patches, or you have the lock hold for those 6 months and then keep the game with it.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective I haven't heard before, the idea of forcing teams to play patch Dota without being able to adjust to it. Because we don't change the rules in the NFL, we don't change the rules in the NBA, but we definitely change the rules.
Well, the field goal rules.
Yeah.
We've changed them.
Well, but you know what I mean? Like, the Dota patches are game-changing every single time. You got 1 minute on the clock, Grant. What do you got for me?
Okay, roster locks are the stupidest thing ever. Legitimately, there should be no roster locks. If teams, the only thing I see for roster locks is, say, okay, EG just qualifies to go to TI6. They kick a player off like a week before. That shouldn't happen, but you guys know what I'm saying. If teams don't like working together, they shouldn't have to. Like right now, it's pretty much you either work together or you have to go through a 1,000-team bracket and you kind of jimmy yourself. Say you have a personal issue with somebody, well, too bad. You better keep that personal issue because Reddit says it's hard for them to follow teams. And I agree. Reddit's right. Like, teams should have to stay together so we can follow them and I can learn to root for them. It's just wrong. That was sarcasm, by the way. If teams want to switch, they should be able to. It's their choice. Valve's not playing for the millions of dollars. The teams are. So, yeah.
Okay. So, and this is just my curiosity here. Do you guys think that Valve should then step back off of their stance if we invite players and not organizations?
I think it's one of those things like, I mean, with Newbie or whatever, they kind of just invited Jow8 or whatever, but like, if the EG team is 4 of the 5 players, then yeah, why would they not get invited when they're the returning champions? Like, how stupid is that? Like, I understand if it's just PPD, maybe you don't invite them, but 4 of the same 5? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's a joke, honestly. And I get it with the rules. It doesn't make it any less of a joke, just like the teams invited to the regional qualifiers were.
Yeah.
Oh, nice shot there at the edge. You like slipped that in there.
Agreed.
That was a surprise. That was good. I should give you points for that, but I'm not going to. All right, let's.
I see Grant can ask for points. And,
well,
whatever.
No, I asked for negative points for Annie.
He asked for
I'm asked for negative points.
I just can't give points after the lightning round. That would be impolite to everybody. So that's it. We've gone through our topics. The points are in. Let's review them. Coming in 3rd place after a slow start, but ending with a good showing, is AnneeDroid in the middle with 27 points. Really, I think it just comes down, you need to talk more with the local players.
Okay, well, I'm going up against GranDGranT and Motpax, some of the NA gods fighting each other out. So
wow, did you hear that? She just put me on the same tier as you, dude. You
should probably take some more points from Annie.
Like,
even now, I can't talk. Y'all need to
just
shut up.
me up.
Okay, here, we'll give you 10 seconds. Go say something. Wrong. Okay, go on, Toffees.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, Annie, I think you put up a good performance. Did a great job. Loved seeing you at the hub. I'm sure we're going to see you doing more stuff in the future.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, and I will say this, and I've gone on record, Grant can vouch for this. I actually said on a forum recently. Annie is one of the casters that I think has improved the most in terms of diction, speed, and mastery of the actual play recently. So kudos to you. Keep up the good work.
Some of us are just born with it, so it's good to see people.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Wait.
No, this is hard work. So I respect seeing a caster work to improve at their craft, even after they are getting hired fairly regularly. So congratulations
Can I
on
have
that.
Grant say one nice thing to me?
Annie, I think you did a great job coming on the show today. You showed up on time, and that was good.
Thank you, Grant. I really appreciate that.
Whatever. You guys act like you're feuding, but I saw a picture of you cuddling at BTS.
Oh, God, no. I gotta go.
Motpax, 28 points, came in at the last second, did a great job there. If you guys don't know Motpax, you need to check him out. He is a stat genius. Like I said, he works for Complexity right now, helping to put their numbers together. Definitely check out the things he has to say because they make perfect sense. Motpax, thank you for being here. And last but not
remember,
least,
that's just to pay my mortgage, so get me to an event, guys. Make some Reddit threads. Thanks.
I like it. Self-promotion. I'll give you a chance to do your plugs in just a second. Last but not least, Grant, you got 30 points. You came in number 1 on this one. You literally have earned yourself one more soapbox. So you get a chance to say anything you want. It can be non-Dota in nature. If you just want to bitch about how Dr. Pepper is better than everything else, that's fine with me. You got 1 minute on the clock. Enjoy your win.
All right, this will be Dota related, and this is going back. I recently saw a Reddit post talking about the top Dota 1 game of all time. That was wrong, terribly wrong. That game was great. DTSC home, the Zoo strat. The best game was at the same tournament. It was ESWC 2010. Nirvana Int had to go to this tournament with a stand-in. Merlini could not go for unprecedented reasons, so they had to pick up a kind of a stable NA guy. No one knew him outside the world in Korok. So 2010 Korok was forced in a game where he played carry middle TA against a Light of Heaven sniper, the best player in the world at the time. And Korok's TA ended up carrying the game, beating Light of Heaven, Dendi, all those names single-handedly with a Slardar Fear behind him. And it was crazy because Korok was a support player at the time. He only played Witch Doctor and Crystal Maiden every game at that LAN. They pick a TA, Korok says, I'm playing it. Dumpster's Light of Heaven, which was unprecedented in 2010. And so I guess I'll give a shout out to NA Dota for being the best since 2010.
So let me ask you this. Do you have a link to that, like a VOD of that game?
Yeah, give me a sec here.
Well, let's just say this. I'm going to go over Twitters in a second, guys. @GranDGranT's going to tweet it at some point, and that way
I'm not going to tweet it.
Come on,
I'll
tweet
post it in chat.
All right, post it to me, and I'll fucking tweet it. Either way, I want you guys to watch the game if it is that good, and if it's not, we can tweet him and tell him that he sucks. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to give you guys a chance to do your plugs and tell us where to find you. Keep in mind, this is a bigger podcast than it is a regular show, so make sure that you verbally tell people where to find you. Let's start on the left or right and run our way across. Motpax, what are you up to next, and where can folks find you?
Up next, what am I up next to? Currently, Global Grandmasters are going on over with some of the Moonduck TV folks, so I'm just having a ball. You know, we're killing some of those games. It's EU, it's playoffs, best of 3, like upper bracket, lower bracket, your full online experience as I am used to. No, it's good, though. We're having a grand old time, so extended games coming up there in the next couple of days, so check me out there, and that's twitch.tv/globalgrandmasters, but for everything else, just Twitter, @Motpax. You'll know when I'm casting, or you can also follow to make sure you avoid my casts, because I'll be tweeting out the links every time.
Thank you.
Works both ways. Yeah, no problem. I got your back, Grant. Don't worry.
Grant, I modded you so you can put the thing up. Sorry, I didn't realize you weren't a super user. Annie, what are you working on next, and where can we find you?
Well, I'm an up-and-coming caster. I hope you guys are enjoying what you're hearing so far. I'm starting another DPL marathon series pretty soon tomorrow night, going back for those big old Chinese shifts, and that's going to be at twitch.tv/DPL_EN, where you can find those starting at 10 p.m. every single night EDT. If you want to follow me specifically, you can find me on Twitch or Twitter @AnneeDroid, ANNEEDROID.
Nice. All right, and last but not least, Grant.
Yeah, hey, I don't know. If you want to follow my channel, I really don't care. I'm not a big social media guy. If you want to watch me on Twitch, I'll cast NEL a bunch and stuff. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's actually twitter.com/ultrazyn. I know I look a little more Asian in the picture, but I swear that's me. Just follow me there.
I like it. So check them all out, guys. You can find me at Toffees TV. A shout out to our sponsors, Pro-Built Systems for the computer, Asus ROG for the traveling computer, and of course, last but not least, GameLeap.com, where you can learn to play like a pro, get some tutorials, watch some videos, and they're not out of date. They're updated for every patch. The big issue I had when I learned my last year was I couldn't find a damn guide for Wind Ranger that was modern, so it was helpful to have something like GameLeap to give me that. Also, guys, good news. This is not on the topic of Around the Pit, but if you're listening to podcasts and you watch the shows a lot, we're running a GoFundMe. You can go to gofundme.com/Toffees to help get me to TI. We're working on content, and I'm pretty okay saying this right now. I'm working with Renessa as well as a producer who knows his way around the business, and we're working on a TI morning show that we can sort of bring before TI starts. We'll put it on YouTube and everywhere else. But if we can get fully funded, we'll be bringing that to you on a daily basis, live from the site at TI. So if you're interested in that, check it out. We'll also be doing some interviews and other fun stuff that I think TI is not handling. Right now, the content in the scene, if you ask my opinion, is 3 types. We've got meme and goofy, we've got a bunch of angry guys talking, or we've got some super serious discussion. We don't really have the fun stuff that, you know, people throwing fish and shit in Seattle would be a lot of fun to see. So we're going to bring
what
that
about
to
my
you.
articles?
Your articles are only on one website that a lot of people avoid
Yeah.
because all you do is yell at each other.
Grant, he meant stuff that's supposed to be funny and not stuff everyone just laughs at.
Oh, nice.
Dude,
Kind of like
that's
your stats and helping complexity get to TI6. You did a great job, dude.
Oh,
Thank you.
He's
I think the wildcards will be a great way for them to shape up for the event.
You're lucky I agree with you, or else I would handle you, but I agree. They're going to beat Escape Gaming, so I can't argue there.
There you go. So it'll get them ready for the main event. Guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate you being here. Thank you to Grant, AnneeDroid, and Motpax. Again, you can find him at GranDGranT no matter what he says. You can find Annie at AnneeDroid with 2 E's, and you can find him at Motpax, Motpax. It's a weird Roman name that you're probably going to laugh at when you find out what it is, so we won't tell you. That said, have a wonderful evening. Thanks for watching, and if you are watching live, I believe Grant's on his way over to cast some NEL after this.
Probably not, actually. I have to work tomorrow.
He has to
tomorrow,
work
though, I am dog sitting for my friend. They're going to Poland for a month. There will be NEL streams every night. I don't have to worry about social obligations because it's the only people I hang out with.
So don't worry about social obligations and multi-stream NEL with GranDGranT and DPL with AnneeDroid because they'll be casting all night tomorrow. So guys, have a great evening. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, Toffee's out.